Hi, it's Wednesday the 18th of May 2022. I'm spending this summer walking from Land's End to John O'Groats, and I'm currently in Wells. Well, I'm actually staying in a hotel in Wookey Hull, just outside Wells. I'm just walking into Wells now, so I'm just spending a couple of days just sightseeing. So today I'm just going to catch the bus into Glastonbury and have a look at the Glastonbury Tor and then the Abbey, and then I'm going to have a little look around Wells, and then tomorrow I'm going to continue walking to Bristol. I've just arrived in the ancient town of Glastonbury. So first thing is I'm going to have a look at the Abbey. So here I am at the very picturesque ruins of Glastonbury Abbey. I'm just going to quote from the leaflet that I got at the ticket office. So Glastonbury Abbey has legendary status as the earliest Christian monastic site in Britain, and by Doomsday it was the wealthiest abbey in England. One of its great abbots, St Dunstan, devised the coronation ceremony still used today, including that of Queen Elizabeth II. The abbey played a major part in the development of Arthurian legend, and visitors could be following in the footsteps of the legendary King Arthur, whose grave was found by monks in the 12th century, as they so claim. They can also take the opportunity to see the holy thorn, believed to be descended from the staff of Joseph of Arimathea. The abbey featured in Matthew Paris's Map of the World in 1250, and today continues to attract visitors from around the globe, keen to discover the history, heritage, myths and legends and spirituality of this nationally important ancient monument in the heart of Somerset. And this is the site where it is claimed that King Arthur's tomb was. This is where the high altar was. So this is looking down where the abbey would have been. Still very impressive ruins. There's a tree by the abbey that's known as the Glastonbury Thorn. Now, the story behind the Glastonbury Thorn is that some people believe that Joseph of Arimathea once visited Glastonbury, and Joseph of Arimathea was a follower of Jesus, and people think that Jesus may have actually visited Glastonbury. But the story behind the tree is that when he arrived here, he was exhausted after a long day's walk, and he just rammed his staff into the ground and went to sleep. And in the morning, the staff had grown into a thorn tree. Now, this isn't the original thorn tree. People say that this may be a descendant, but I don't think it is. But who knows? So now it's time to go up to see Glastonbury Tor and St Michael's Tower. So here I am on Glastonbury Tor, which is a hill near Glastonbury, topped by St Michael's Tower, a Grade 1 listed building. The entire site is managed by the National Trust and has been designated a scheduled monument. The Tor is mentioned in Celtic mythology, particularly in myths linked to King Arthur. Glastonbury has a long tradition of being the Isle of Avalon, where King Arthur went after his last battle. St Michael's Tower is all that remains of a 14th century church. It replaced a previous church that had been destroyed in an earthquake, but then it was destroyed during the dissolution of the monasteries in 1539. Thousands of years ago, Glastonbury Tor was an island. Before modern drainage, the Tor in winter would have towered above the flooded Somerset levels. So time to head back to Wells and have a look at the medieval centre there. So here I am in Wells. So I'm just going to have a look at the cathedral. So this is Wells Cathedral, which was built between 1175 and 1490. The cathedral houses one of the largest collections of historic stained glass in the country. Experts agree that the Jesse window at Wells Cathedral is one of the most splendid examples of 14th century stained glass in Europe that narrowly escaped destruction during the English Civil War. Just up there is the Wells clock, which has the second oldest clock mechanism in Great Britain. I'm just going to go down to the Vicar's Close. Adjoining the cathedral is Vicar's Close, which is said to be the only surviving complete medieval street in England. The houses date back to the 14th century, and this is where the choir at the cathedral would have lived. I'm just going to go over now and have a look at the nearby Bishop's Palace. This is the very impressive gatehouse to the Bishop's Palace. The building dates back to 1206 and it was used for the bishops of Bath and Wells for 800 years. And this is where the Wells got its name from, because there's a spring or several springs in the gardens of the Bishop's Palace, and they had the well here as well. Market day today. So time to go back to the hotel and prepare for my walk to Bristol tomorrow. Thursday the 19th of May. So I'm going to spend the next couple of days walking to Bristol. I hope to be following the Monarch's Way as much as possible, but I think if a lot of it is inaccessible, I'll just be following the lanes So today I'll be going over the Mendip Hills. As I mentioned on my previous video, the Monarch's Way marks the approximate route which King Charles II took when he was forced to flee the country after losing the Battle of Worcester in 1651. And these are the way markers which mark the route. The ship at the top, that represents the ship which Charles sailed to France on when he eventually managed to escape from England. And the tree below it, that's the Royal Oak, and that's where he had to hide one time when Cromwell's soldiers were looking for him. It's quite misty this morning, which is quite good because there's quite a big climb, very steep climb coming out of Wells, and it's going to be a quite hot day today, so it's a nice cool walking up to the top of this hill. I think this ridge also forms part of the Cheddar Gorge. This is a big long ridge going to Cheddar, which is just over to the west, and I would have liked to see the Cheddar Gorge, but there's just so many things to see en route. I'll have to maybe do it another time. But I'm heading to the top of the Mendip Hills now, and then I think I approach, is it the Chew Valley, but there's a big lake, the Chew Valley Lake. So I might be seeing that on the way to Bristol. I'm just approaching Compton Martin and the Chew Valley. Just arrived at Mendip View Camping, and another nice, very quiet campsite. I think I'm the only person here again, because I haven't seen anyone else. There's a lot of cars here, but I haven't seen anyone else wandering around. We're quite close to Bristol Airport actually. Every 10 minutes I can see a EasyJet aeroplane coming in just over there to land, but it's not too noisy. And it's £15 a night, which is quite nice. So tomorrow I'm heading off to Bristol. I want to see the Clifton Suspension Bridge, and then after that it's a slightly boring walk through Bristol to my hotel, and then the next day I'll be going to Chepstow. So until then, good night. Friday the 20th of May. It's going to be a rather soggy day, unfortunately. I'm just walking in the general direction of Long Ashton. I'm just following parts of the Monarch's Way, and then just going on a country lane for part of the way. And then when I get to Long Ashton, I'm going to cross Ashton Court Country Park, and then I head towards the Clifton Suspension Bridge, and then it's just a mundane walk through Bristol. Just arriving at Ashton Court, which is a very nice country park on the way to the suspension bridge. This is Ashton Court Manor House. There's been a manor house here since the 11th century, but it's been sort of improved and expanded over the years. I'm just wondering if there's a cafe here before I start my walk into Bristol. Very impressive building. I can just see Bristol over in the distance now. So I'm just going to have a tea break and then head into the city. Just approaching the suspension bridge. I hope to get a better view when I get to the other side. This is the Clifton Suspension Bridge, and it goes over the River Avon. Now, I always thought that the bridge had been designed by Isambard Kingdom Brunel, and he tried to build a bridge in 1831, but that was stopped by an event called the Bristol Riots. And Brunel unfortunately died in 1859, but this bridge was built based on his original design, and the bridge was finished in 1864. So now it's just a 3-mile walk through North Bristol to my hotel, and then tomorrow I'll be off to Chepstow. So until then, good night. Saturday the 21st of May, and today I'm off to Wales. I'm heading for the M48 road bridge crossing over the River Severn, and when I get there, that kind of marks the end of the southwest stage of Lejog, and it marks the beginning of the Wales and West Midlands stage. And what I'm planning to do is I'll be following the River Wye until I get to Untitled, and from there I'll be following the Offa's-Dyke path up to the North Wales coast path, and from there I'll be heading back into England towards Chepstow, and that's when I'll start planning the North England stage. And there's a dozen different ways of doing that, but I'll plan my route when I start approaching Chepstow. I've just arrived at the M48 Severn crossing, and there's the M4 crossing just further downstream, but that's motorway traffic only. This is pedestrians and cycles can cross here. This was opened in 1966. Before that they just had a ferry service. It's about 2.5 miles long. I think I walked it a few years ago and it took about 45 minutes, so I guess it's about 2.5 miles. So it's quite a nice walk, you get some nice views. And then I'll be in Chepstow just on the other side. Just approaching the River Wye now. This is where the River Wye meets up with the River Severn and flows into the sea. So this is where my little walk along the river up to Untitled begins. Well, that took me about 35 minutes, so I guess it's just under 2 miles for the pedestrian access part of the bridge. So now I'm going to head into Chepstow. I've just arrived at the original city wall, or the port wall as they called it. Still in very impressive condition. It was about 1,200 metres long when they originally built it. It dates back to the end of the 13th century. So now I'm going to go down to the centre of Chepstow and have a look at Chepstow Castle. I'm just going down Chepstow's High Street, down to the river where the old Norman castle is. So here I am at Chepstow Castle. So the castle was started to be constructed in 1067, soon after the Norman conquest of England the previous year. It was built by William Fitz-Osborne, who was a strong ally of William the Conqueror. Now, William the Conqueror wanted a Norman castle built here as soon as possible because the site overlooks an important crossing point on the River Wye. So a stronghold here controlled all the ships travelling up and down the Wye, as well as anyone wanting to cross the river. And it also helped suppress any possible Welsh uprisings. The river was also used for easy transportation of supplies to the castle. I've treated myself to a night in a hotel room again. I'm staying here at the Coach and Horses. It's only £45, which nowadays that's quite a bargain, so I'm not really expecting much, but it's right in town centre, so as long as I get a few hours sleep, and then tomorrow I'll be heading to Monmouth. So until then, good night. Sunday the 22nd of May. Today I'm following the Wye Valley up to Monmouth. I've actually got a choice of two long distance trails that follow the River Wye up to Monmouth. On the west bank, leaving Chepstow, is the Wye Valley Trail, and on the east bank is the Offa's Dyke Trail. And that's the one I'll be taking as far as Monmouth. You get a very nice view of the town and the castle from this side of the river. But now I've got a bit of a steep climb to get onto the Offa's Dyke Trail. It's just personal preference which route to take. I'm just going on the Offa's Dyke path because I've done this a couple of times before between Chepstow and Hay-on-Wye, so I'm quite familiar, so I don't need my map so much. The only difference, I think, on the Wye Valley walk, it goes right past Tintern Abbey, but I'm not sure if you're actually allowed in or not. But on this route, on the Offa's Dyke, you get a very good view of Tintern Abbey from a viewpoint called the Devil's Pulpit. I'm hoping it's going to be another nice day again today, but I think it's going to be a bit wet tomorrow on my walk to Ross-on-Wye, unfortunately. There's a very good view of the Wye Valley from here. The Offa's Dyke path is definitely a very picturesque walk. I definitely recommend doing it. So the Offa's Dyke path is a 177 mile path, which roughly it follows the Welsh-English border. So it's like a coast-to-coast walk from South Wales up to North Wales. In fact, I think Wales is the only country in the world that has a long distance trail going all the way around the border, because of course it also has the Welsh coastal path. So that would be something I could put on my to-do list one day, do the entire Welsh border walk, which might take a couple of months, I think. Some very nice views of the River Severn over in the distance. So just a few hundred metres and the path connects up with the Offa's Dyke. So Offa's Dyke is an ancient defensive earthwork which dates back to the 8th century. So back then England was divided into several Anglo-Saxon kingdoms. And in the English Midlands there was a very powerful kingdom called Mercia. And one of the kings of Mercia was King Offa. And he decided to build this defensive earthwork between Mercia and Wales. I'm on a section of Offa's Dyke now overlooking the Wye Valley. So the Offa's Dyke, it would have been a large ditch. They would have dug a very wide and deep ditch and then used the soil to build a defensive bank. And I hope further along the walk there's some very good examples of how the Offa's Dyke would have looked. I've just arrived at Devil's Pulpit, and this is a very scenic viewpoint looking out over the Wye Valley, and over in the distance is Tintern Abbey, or the ruins of the abbey. So that Tintern Abbey, that was founded in 1131, and it unfortunately fell victim to the dissolution of the monasteries in the 16th century, and it fell into ruin soon after that. Now, the Devil's Pulpit got its name because there's an old legend that the devil would come up here and try and preach to the monks and try and convince them to be less holy and to worship the devil, but of course he didn't succeed. I'm heading towards a small village called Redbrook on the way to Monmouth. Last time I was here there was a very useful grocery shop there, so I'm hoping to go there this afternoon and stock up with food and water. And then just to the east of Monmouth there's a large forest, and I'm going to wild camp up there tonight. And then tomorrow morning I'm hoping to see Goodrich Castle. It's on the way to Ross-on-Wye. It's slightly off route, but I'm hoping to have time to visit that, and then I'll be arriving in Ross-on-Wye. This is where the Offa's Dyke splits into two routes. There's one that goes up over the hill, and there's the alternative route which follows the River Wye. And I think I'll take that one because I think it's going to be more scenic. It's a bit longer, but it's a lot more level, so I think it's going to be quite a pleasant walk. The village where the footpath splits into two, I think it was called Brockweir. And I think this is the better of the two routes. This is the one following the River Wye. It's very scenic along here, and I'm approaching Redbrook soon. Just arrived at Redbrook, where I'm having a bit of a break before carrying on. The village stores is open on Sundays till 4 o'clock, so that's quite good. So I've stocked up now with food and drink for tonight. I've only got about 2.5 miles to where I'm camping this afternoon, but it's right up in the hills. I think it's going to be a bit of a climb. I'm heading for a local viewpoint called Buck Rock, I think, and from there that's where I'll start looking for somewhere to camp. It's actually the Buck Stone I've just arrived at. I assume that's the Buck Stone, with some really gorgeous views over the northwest, so I guess that's looking towards Monmouth and Wales. I'm going in a northeasterly direction, so I'm just going to keep going on because it's still quite early in the afternoon, so I'm going to keep heading towards Ross-on-Wye. I walked another mile or so from the Buck Stone and I found a nice secluded spot here. I don't want to walk much further because I'm only about 12 miles now from Ross-on-Wye, so I don't want to get there too early really. So I'm going to settle down for tonight, and then tomorrow morning I'll be heading off to hopefully Goodrich Castle and then to Ross-on-Wye. So until then, good night. Monday the 23rd of May. This morning I'm heading back down into the Wye Valley, and I'll be following the Wye Valley Trail to Ross-on-Wye. Just arrived at Goodrich Castle. So now I'm just going to have a little look around before continuing my journey. So these are the very impressive ruins of Goodrich Castle, which is an old Norman castle. So it would have started life as a wooden fortification just after the Norman invasion of England. Then it was expanded significantly during the 13th century. Although it was used during the English Civil War, it was besieged and it was heavily damaged then, and that was when it just became a ruin. So just going into the Barbican part of the castle. So time to continue my little walk to Ross-on-Wye. Just arrived in the centre of Ross-on-Wye. So now I have to look for my hotel room. Tomorrow I have to go home for a few days, but then I'll be coming back again to finish my walk up to North Wales. So thank you very much for watching my video, and I hope to upload another one soon. Bye!